Hey guys, welcome back to the Another Excuse podcast, where we chat to founders, creators, and self-starters about how they started and where they are now. Today's guest is Ludré Stevens, the founder of 3 different companies all running at the same time. One company is 13 years old, the other is 3 years old, and the third one is 3 months old. It's a fascinating conversation as he's juggling all 3 of these companies at the same time. He's facing unique challenges that I haven't really discussed before. I really enjoyed this conversation and I learned a lot, and I'm sure you will too. Enjoy the show. Hi Ludré, thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to get into everything you're working on and the challenges and lessons you've learned so far. But first, to get a bit of context, could you fill us in on who you are and your journey and what got you to where you are today?
Certainly. Thank you for having me, Byron. So I'm South African, as you can tell. I'm Afrikaans, but I've been in the UK now for 19 winters. And I came over here working for Lehman Brothers. For those of you guys who are old enough to remember the big bank back in the day. And so now it's 10 years later, and I've been on the entrepreneurial route, I now have a 13-year-old company, a 3-year-old company, a 3-month-old company. So my journey is SA banking, entrepreneurial space, and still in the UK 19 winters later.
Wow, I'm fascinated. I love it how you put it in the context of winters because they definitely are memorable. So just to give a bit more context before we go in many directions, you did mention that you're working on multiple businesses at the moment. And I have questions about all of them because they are at at different stages. But could you give an overview of each business and what they do?
Certainly. So the 13-year-old, the teenager, is an email workflow company called iNBOTiQA. And the main tool is a tool called Mail. So we all deal with work email every single day. Majority of the time we spend every day in the business is on email. And so email is a wonderful tool that we all use because it's flexible, universal, and very widely used, but it also gets abused. So how do I count, track, and manage email? So we built this email workflow tool that just helps you solve all the pain points around email. How do I count, track, and manage? But without taking away the pain points. So we have big banking clients using us and lots of people in the FX space and brokers and accounting and finance. And so it's a business workflow tool, but it's a bit like use Outlook or Gmail or Mail. So we plan to take over the email application space. So that's all big enterprise workflow and productivity. Then my 3-year-old, as I like to call it, is called a company called GoGetNow. So it's on-demand delivery for everything, not just food or groceries like the big boys do today, like Uber Eats and Deliveroo, or Check 60 in SA, for example. So I was stuck in a Heathrow hotel, in a quarantine hotel for 2 weeks when I got back from SA a few years ago, and I just wanted to get to order decaf instant coffee from the local Sainsbury's. I know exactly the brand, I know exactly where it is on the shelf, but you can't just order anything. You can only order the stuff that these big apps have listed. And so my brother and I, and also now a few co-founders, got the idea. So GoGetNow, so you can send a rider buyer to any store and they can buy anything for you. The great thing about this is the stores do not have to be listed on the platform. And so you've got complete consumer flexibility. And the other big thing is we don't charge the stores 25% commission on every transaction. So we help protect local jobs and create local economic activity. And the last one is called Easy Schedule app. So I was sitting on a train the other day from London to Edinburgh, and I've responded to like the 15th email of the day of, can you make this time? Does this slot suit your calendar? It's just crazy how many emails we send just to book meetings. So I said, there has to be easier ways. So we've built an app that allows you to do one email, one meeting invite to book meetings between companies, between people, without having to grant access to your calendar. So 3 companies, different sectors. There's enterprise, logistics, consumer stuff, and the other one's productivity. But yeah, so it's different spaces.
Yeah, very different spaces. And like I said, we're going to discuss all of them. But I'd like to start with iNBOTiQA first. What gave you the idea to start iNBOTiQA?
So I was, unfortunately, I already mentioned this bank's name. Actually, it doesn't matter because Lehman Brothers. So what happens is you get all these emails in the back office. please book this trade, please settle this thing, please fix that thing. And what if you don't, in banking, if you don't respond to the email, someone loses money, right? There's no, you can't choose to respond to the email. You have to respond to the email because all transactions. And so we missed an email in the middle office team, and then the client was £2 million out because we didn't do the instruction, and then the bank had to make the client right. So then my boss said to me, just can you look at a process for us to risk manage operational emails, how to make sure every single email is looked after. And I actually work on a system when I lived in Joburg, I worked in Sandton. I worked for a big financial service company, and we had a CRM system there that did ticket management. So I thought, let's just try and build a system that's ticket management and email all in one place. So anyway, it was a massive success. So we built this pilot, and in 2 years' time, we rolled it out to 10 different locations, from Japan, of the UK, US, all the way to Brazil. And we had like 2,000 users on it. And then, of course, the big bang happened. So the big bang happened in 2008. We all went to other places. And I was working at the next bank. And my boss said to me, we just missed this email. How do we fix this problem? I said, okay, I'm quitting my job. I'm resigning right now. I'm going to build this thing from scratch because everyone has this problem. Little did I know, it's not just about the idea. You also need to know how to raise funds and build a team and get a go-to-market strategy and do 1,000 million other things. But I resigned without savings in the bank, without funding in the bank. I had an idea and a co-founder. So that was the beginning of that journey.
Wow. Was it just based on conviction? How did you have so much confidence to just leave your job and go full steam ahead into this?
Well, at that point, I've been in banking for 10 years. So I've seen the same problem at 3 different banks. I worked for Lehman Brothers, Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley. So I've seen it all across the board. So the problem was real, number one. Also, the solution a similar solution we built previously at the previous bank kind of solved that problem. So we know it works. And we can also see that it has really good network effect. And of course, you don't know what you don't know. So I thought market is there, product really works, it really takes off. And so you kind of just jump off the cliff and assemble the plane on the way down. Like if you're, at least the way that I operate, or the way that my mind works, is like if you get an idea and you fundamentally believe in it, you just do it. Everything else falls around. Because tomorrow never comes. You can't plan, tomorrow I'll have this and this and this and this, and only if I have that, I'll do it. It just doesn't work like that. For some people, it does, right? So some entrepreneurs are PhDs, Stanford Business School, methodical, big plans. Other people, my mind is, I get the idea, and when you believe in it, you just know. Well, actually, you don't know if it's going to work. Like if you believe in it, just do it. Ultimately. But we had some market validation because I've been in several banks, seen the same problem across the board, and we built something similar that was so successful. So there was some foundation to that optimism.
Definitely. And so you said you've been running this business for 13 years, and it's your longest running business. Did you have a long-term view when starting the business?
I had a short-term view.
Did you have a short-term
view, and we're going to make millions, and we're going to retire after 2 years and live on an island. I definitely had a short-term view because everybody has an email problem. No, so obviously reality then kicks in because there's a famous saying, you either deal with reality or reality will deal with you. So we had the authentic journey. So built a product, got a POC, got 2 clients, including Citibank as our first client, right? So it's me, my co-founder, and a sidekick. And we got Citibank to sign up as our first user base, and we went to India and we put it live, and it was great. We then lost Citibank, and then we got a few other clients, and then so you keep building. As you get product market fit, get more feedback, get more users, and then we went on this fintech deal mission to New York with 10 UK fintech companies with the Mayor of London. At the time, it was Boris Johnson. So we all land in New York and Boston with Boris Johnson and his entourage from his office. And we spent 10 days hitting the circuit over there. But on one of the companies on this mission with us, one of their big backers and founders and advisors then started helping us out and mentoring our company and helping us. And then eventually, after 2 years, after they sold that business to a big partner, He then joined our company, and then they helped us with scaling and rebranding and going from concept and POC to professional. So at that point, we went from founder managed to investor managed, with the new board and so forth. However, obviously, to go from concept to product market fit, then to scaling, each of those things have different challenges. And so we now still in that process. So we have the professional management team on board, we have the professional investors on board, we have major tier one banking clients, and we're doing our big scaling next phase on that. So that journey is not quite over yet, but luckily it's not the beginning days where you have to prove the product. Now it's about getting market share, which is nice. It's a different mindset.
Well, yeah, different mindset. But would you say that is slightly easier than proving the concept at the beginning?
No, it's different. It's different challenges, and it's as hard. They often say it's easy for you to raise money before pre-revenue because then you have to sell the concept. It's harder for you to raise money after revenue because then you have some track record to work on. It's a different skill set. So startups is wild west and hectic and difficult. Scale ups is political contracts, investment capital. I'm gonna pound you with quotes because there's loads of quotes I'm gonna throw at you. This big one that says
Please.
it's easier uh, getting an investor is more permanent than getting married because you can't get divorced, from an investor. So it's a whole other set of relationships. But the key thing is obviously choose your investors wisely because you can't divorce them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And now I'd like to move on to the middle child, if you will. So GoGetNow
Yeah.
is 3 years old, and you mentioned you got the idea while in quarantine. And I feel like even at that time during COVID, the delivery market was picking up. What gave you the confidence that you'd start this business in quite a popular market and that one of these other players wouldn't do something similar?
Absolutely. So the long answer is that I had this investor a few years ago, director a few years ago, and he was completely in the retail market. In fact, it was in foreign exchange, right? So the most competitive market you can possibly think about. And I always pitch, oh, yeah, Udemy is great because it is this unique email workflow tool that solves all the pain points around email that no one else does. And he said, but actually, Ludré, I like a market where there's loads of competitors because then all I have to do is compete. Because in a brand new product, you have to develop the product, the concept, innovation, and then you have to educate people that this thing exists and they need it, as opposed to going to market that already exists and all you have to do is compete. However, GoGetNow is not quite there. So GoGetNow, two really big things that counted in his favor. The first thing is COVID was raging around the world, unfortunately, and there's all these lockdowns. And so online ordering for on-demand delivery was spiking big time, right? Because that's all how you got your deliveries in because you couldn't go out shopping. But that then meant that people started getting used to the idea. So people were resistant before it. Like if you you didn't like online shopping or didn't like to pay for the delivery fees, or you want to go and touch the stuff yourself in the shop to look at it, all of those things, you had no choice. You had to order online. So even people who before was resistant to it now got used to it and then want it. And that then also meant that consumer behavior demands changes because now if I can get food and groceries same day on demand, why can't I get medicine, stockings, books, and why can't I use those same guys to go pick up my charger I forgot at home, or my homework of my child's homework from their friend? And so that was really, really good. Now, I shouldn't be saying this because I don't want the big boys to hear this, but we are disrupting the existing market. So the existing market, all the big boys today do not make their money from delivery fees because the delivery fees go to riders. They make their money on commission. So and they charge 25 to 35% of any order that you place. So if you order £20 Chinese takeaway food, they get £5. If you order £40 takeaway from Nando's, they take £10, right? So Nando's only get £30 from that. And so they basically have this big grip on the restaurant market because restaurants don't list on them, then the restaurants don't get the business. Same goes for groceries as well. And so we disrupt the market because we do not charge any commission because we don't need stores to be listed on our platform. So our value prop is this. Customers get flexibility. So send us to any shop, any place, because we have our own card. So we don't have to have an arrangement with a company to pay them later. So you can tend to go buy these stockings or a birthday cake or fancy wine or a cigar or whatever that case may be. And so our rider gets more work outside of peak hour times, not just food and groceries, but in errands. Customers get complete flexibility, and obviously stores get more business. And that also means the stores don't lose 25% to this big boys. So we have more jobs in shops, more local economic turnaround, as opposed to ordering from Amazon and next day delivery. And so our value prop is high volume, low margin. So we're basically disrupting this market that these guys created for themselves, whereby they store suffer, customers don't have choice, riders, are just be shut around. And so our value prop here is we're helping people, helping stores, helping people, the riders, and we just make money slightly on the delivery fees. So no commission. So in other words, we are disrupting their market. So, that's the value proposition, or that's the plan at least.
Interesting. I have two questions. First one is there more vetting for the riders or the drivers? Because I feel like they're doing slightly more things that require a bit more trust, if that makes sense. Like if you're picking up the homework for your child, how do you trust that person enough to get it from A to B and not run to the hills?
100%. So there are three levels of extra vetting or vetting. So in the UK, you can only work, obviously, if you confirmed your identity, and you have insurance for your vehicle. So whenever all of our riders get vetted, that we know who they are. So we have a form of identity checks, and we actually use some nifty AI tools for that, where if you scan your passport or your driver's license from this country or other countries, there are ways to check whether that's true, valid, or tampered with. Then also we have insurance up to a certain amount of value. So if a rider were to get in an accident, unfortunately, or lose a package or damage it, then we, obviously the company, we are insured. However, we're not a concierge service. I can never say the word. We are instant delivery on demand company, right? So you don't send us with your Rolex watch. Just send us to go pick up your dry cleaning or that kind of thing. However, in the UK, in other words, we know who the riders are. We obviously send them a card to their own address. So we do all of those checks. We do plan to take this international, right? Because the great thing about this model is that it can be used in informal settlements. So if, for example, in South Africa, where you and I are from, there are these big informal settlements where there's like local corner shops, and lots of times these shops are excluded from online deliveries and sales because it's too expensive and there are no riders, and why would they do that? But if you, for example, are a grandma and you look after 5 kids and you need to get bread from the local spaza shop, you can use us. So in other words, we create jobs and we go pick up the bread and bring it to you ultimately. And so we do definitely plan to take this to low density, more informal environments. And at that point, we'll have to figure out a bit more how we make sure that people who say who they are and they're not, trying to take us for a ride. But in the UK, in our current phase, we do identity checks and we do make sure we do the normal checking on the back end of that. Because it's valid, they can just run away with your product if they are dodgy.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. And another question is with regards to buy-in. I can see the buy-in from the consumer side of things, lower fees and more convenience, but buy-in from the shops, because they aren't needed to be involved in the process, how do you necessarily get buy-in from them compared to the competitors who need to be visible on those platforms, and so they almost forced into the buy-in?
So this is the beauty of this product, or the setup is, so if the stores recommend, so we've got 3 different services: pick up anything, send anything, buy and deliver. So just for example, the store has a click and collect service. So we've been speaking to this hardware store, and they've got click and collect. So instead of doing click and collect and then you have to come to the store and pick it up yourself, so you say, I'll buy it on a website and I'll select GoGetNow to come pick it up. And then the customer only says, well, books with us on our app to say, I'll pick it up, or the hardware store can just say, I'll send it to you. Now what happens is the store still gets the sale, but they no longer then forego the 25% to the other people ultimately. So the indirect way is stores can say, when customers do a phone-in, click and collect, or on the website, they say, order online from us and then use these guys to come pick it up, or we'll add £5 to it and we'll just send it to you. So it's to their benefit to recommend us over the incumbents because they save the money. That's that's the concept. However, the way we're actually doing it is we're doing a bunch of B2B uh, initial sales. So we're targeting, at the moment, we're doing a bunch of pharmacies who do deliveries to their patients for, or their customers for prescriptions or B2B things. And obviously, then what happens is those people get our flyers and they start using us automatically. So because we are pre-seed at the moment, pre-seed capital raised, we just do this word of mouth um, market development whereby we do B2B business and then they use us to their customers and their customers get to know about us. But the fundamental thing is stores will use us, they'll recommend us over the incumbents because we don't take 25% of the invoice.
That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, it makes so much sense. So I'd like to move on to the third business, which is only 3 months old. So it's a very, very new. What is the exact problem that you're tackling with this business?
Right. So the company's called CalendarNow, but the product is called Easy Schedule app. So what happens is you and I try to set up a meeting. So I send you an email, say, can you make Wednesday 2 o'clock, Thursday 4 o'clock, or Friday 2 o'clock? And you reply to me, no, I can't make either of those. What about next week? Monday at 2 o'clock. And I go, okay, cool, let's do it. Right. And that's at least 4 or 5 emails between you and me. So if you add one more other person to that email, so a third person, a fourth party, fifth party, the factor goes up by each one of those people because they all have to reply, yes, we can make it, no, we can't make it, yes, it works, no, it doesn't work. So if you have 5 people on an email, it means 15 emails before you book an email, a meeting, right? And it's just this most aggravating way of just booking meetings between people. Now, there are tools out there that obviously helps with this. So Calendly is a great one, but Calendly requires the organizer to grant access to the calendar. So there's a level of data intrusion and data access. Also, Microsoft has something called scheduling poll, but only works on Microsoft calendars and requires access to your calendar. There's something called Doodle, but it's a very fluffy type of system, so it looks very unenterprising. And so our premise is the following. I want to be able to meeting up between you and me. I'm going to give you times, but then you get to select the times, and then we match, and then we automatically get into our calendar. So one email from me, one email I send one email, you get one email. That's it. There's no need for us to be back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to see whether you make it. Whether it's one person or 10 people or 20 people, it's the same concept. Now, there's two things that makes us different. The first thing is that there's no need for that person to grant access to anybody to the calendar, which is the major hurdle for people to go cross-platforms from Gmail to Outlook or in a big bank, for example. So let's say my client, let's say theoretically is HSBC, and I want to have a meeting with them. They can't go and set up a meeting on the calendar from a tool that's not been vetted or information security checked, all that kind of stuff. So basically, our tool is just platform agnostic, system agnostic, no need for access data, no need for people to get permission. You just use us and we just book the meetings. One email send, one email receive. Now, this is a classic example of there's quite a few competitors out there, so all we have to do is compete, and so bring it on. Because the market is big enough, right? There's 1.2 billion Gmail users and 800 million Outlook users in the world. If we get 5% of the market, we're talking about a significant number of just revenue and just annual fees, right? Because 5% of the market,
Yeah.
it's a massive market. Plus, also, it makes my life easier. One email, one meeting invite, just makes my life easier.
And is that the product so you use your product at the moment?
Yes. So we actually went live with the latest version yesterday. Reid Hoffman's, the founder of LinkedIn, said, if you ship your product and you're not embarrassed, then you've waited too late. Because his theory is ship it soon so you can get feedback and tweak. So it is rough and ready, but it works. One email, one appointment, and a matching agent. Yeah, so it's there. It's there.
Awesome. Fantastic. And why add another project to your plate?
That's a great question. I was sitting and talking to someone the other day, actually even before the calendar app with GoGetNow, and we would go to GoGetNow doing a fundraise, and I was saying to this guy, did I just do this to myself again? Did I just literally do this to myself again? And the guy obviously shook his head and said, yes, you did. And then the other day, I realized with Easy Schedule now, easy scheduler. I just did it again for a third time. So yeah, I don't know what to say other than I can't believe I did it again. Whatever. However, I must just say this. So the first company, iNBOTiQA took 3 years to start because after the credit crunch happened, I went on to other banks and I toyed with the idea and did not quite do it. It took 3 years to go from, this idea might work to quitting my job and doing it. GoGetNow was 3 months from stuck at this hotel in this hotel for quarantine to incorporating the company. And schedule now was 3 hours, so it's on the train saying, let me fix this. And then 3 hours got the tech people lined up and incorporated the company. So at least the setup time goes from 3 years to 3 months to 3 hours. Because
Yeah.
now, you know how to speak, now, you know the methods, and that so it becomes easier.
Quick interruption from me. The podcast is starting to gain traction, which is amazing. And thank you so much for the support. If I could ask you to do one little thing, could you please rate this podcast on whichever podcast platform you listen on? That little action goes a lot further than you think and would really help the podcast grow. Thanks in advance. I really appreciate it. Back to the episode. Yeah, and would you say you just really love starting things? Because I can imagine, also spreading yourself too thin may mean that you aren't able to pay attention to all the projects evenly.
Oh, 100% right. So I mean, the fourth project, which isn't a commercial one, which I'm also running. So I think I may have mentioned to you a while ago. So in South Africa, the second largest political party in the country is called the Democratic Alliance. They're the official opposition in Parliament. They run many cities, including Cape Town, Pretoria, and a few other cities. So the DA has an overseas supporters network called the DA Abroad, and we do overseas fundraising, lobbying, and voting for the party. So I was part of the founding team of that 14 years ago, and I'm now again the chairperson of it. And we're absolutely getting up to the elections coming up next year. So it's actually a fourth venture that takes up my time as well during the day. And so the first part of the question is do I just like creating things? I think it's a passion thing, right? So I think for each of these things, I had a need for GoGetNow, I had a need for CalendarNow, I had a need to be part of my country's future with the DA Abroad, with UDO. I work with email every single day, so these things are they come from a source of passion. In terms of do I spend time equally on all of them, and do I spend enough time on all of them? Absolutely not. And I wish I had this magic framework I can share with you, 10-point plan with a 2-point flexible scenario. It's not I wake up in the morning and I think, all right, so I set my objectives at the beginning of the week. I have a structure. So, for example, my mornings at 12 o'clock is creative time. So I block my calendar, no meetings on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and that's my time where I just do heavy lifting. So that's where I do the thinking work. In the afternoons is for clearing my communications and team FaceTime and stuff like that. So I have a structure, because otherwise what happens is the urgent always crowds out the important. You never get the important. However, there is not enough hours in a day for 4 different ventures. I must say, though, the lesson I've taken, especially also from my coach at the moment, is go to become more executive. So don't do the stuff yourself, but enable the people around you to do it. It is hard for an entrepreneur because sometimes you just go, let me just do it myself because it's not going fast enough. But I guess anybody who goes through life and become more and more senior, even if you go up in a corporate job, you go from being a doer to becoming a leader, and there's an art to it. But the answer is no. I don't wake up in the morning and I'm all zen and happy. I'm chaotic and happy when I wake up in the morning.
And I'm sure you are. And have you, like you mentioned with starting the businesses, you went from 3 years all the way to 3 hours. Do you think it was similar process for stepping back and delegating? Has it become faster? Have you noticed who you need to put in place to run the business and all of that?
Yes, for sure. So one thing the answer is yes, but the younger the businesses or the earlier stage of businesses, the more hands-on you have to be as the entrepreneur or the founder, because people don't always know exactly all the moving parts going on that you know as a founder or as a founding team. So, for example, with iNBOTiQA, We now have professional management. We have division of functions. We have people who do finance versus the product versus tech versus, and so there we've hired proper staff. We've hired staff to do specialized functions. With the two more younger companies, if we put it that way, it is more hands-on and all around. But what happens is, the reason why, for me at least, the turnaround time has gone down is because I now have trusted people in my life, right? So I know if I have a tech question, who do I go to? I know if I have a legal question, who do I go to? I know if I need to spend 2 hours and brainstorm, who to go to. Whereas when you're a brand new entrepreneur, you don't have any of that. You don't even know that you need that. So it's definitely a case of it becomes easier because actually you have those people that you go to ultimately. And actually, the same people in all the companies end up in it's your same crew that you basically have, which is nice because then you don't have to do any of that storming, forming, norming, performing with brand new team members. You kind of know exactly if they said this or if I said this, what do I mean, what they mean. So yeah, I think that assessment is correct.
And in terms of the network that now you rely upon, were you intentional throughout the years with gaining a network, saying like, oh, I have this law problem, I know who to, and you go to people and then you keep the ones that are good close? Or does it sort of naturally happen when you have different problems and you just find someone to turn to?
Yeah, I definitely say it's organic. It's definitely organic. Because I do realize actually when a few times now I've traced back how do I got to a person, or how do I get a person, a customer or a situation, and I actually always trace back 3 or 4 hops, so this was this production and this event, so on and so forth. Sometimes completely random. And can I tell you, once network's the most important thing, and the unintentional organic network is such a great thing. I can think, of you and I are speaking because Rob introduced us. I met him randomly last year at an entrepreneur network event at Barclays Rise, actually the year before. And the only reason why we spoke is because he heard my accent and I heard his accent. And then he ended up being one of our advisors for GoGetNow, and you and I speaking. And that's completely being at one point networking. Having said that, it was a networking event. It wasn't, a social event. So networking is great, especially if you do it in a paid forward method and if you do it authentically and organically. But if you do it as a hard sell, that never works. Well, at least in my situation, it doesn't work. But networking organically, paying it forward, that works great, I have found.
And by paying it forward, do you mean keeping in contact with them and adding value where you see some value maybe
exactly
necessary
offering
to
help no matter what, right? So whenever I actually make a point of this always. So whenever whenever I want to ask someone something, because you think, oh, this guy might know something, I always say, what can I do for you? Like, is there something I can do for you right now? And they always say no, because it's not always a thing. But then next week, the day after, there's always something that pops up. And paying it forward is when you come across an opportunity. I always think, who else would be interested in this, for example. And just that act of paying it forward, like always thinking, who else can I pass it on to? Like, who else can I mention this to? Because it also gives you an excuse to make contact with them again, to keep the relationship fresh, but also to pay it forward. But it all adds up. I must tell you, it all adds up because a lot of small increments end up being very valuable in a compounding effect. But again, for me, it's like an organic thing. It's not let me pay it forward in order to get, brand new clients. It's very organic thing. And also, you kind of end up just working with people that you like as opposed to people you don't like.
Do you have a structured approach to sort of paying it forward or offering help? Are you like, oh, I need to touch base with that person? I know some people have spreadsheets. Or is it just sort of someone comes to mind and you just send them a message?
Yeah,
Do you
so
have an
I
approach?
actually, so I've got a Trello board, and I've got this Trello board linked to an email address. And as I come across, so this is for there's different categories. So there's people I want to keep nurturing. So there's the 10 people I want to nurture, because they might either be advisors to me, or they might be future investors, or they might be good talent, or they just add good energy to my life, right? So those are the ones you nurture. And then you keep thinking about ideas, and you just park it over there. For example, I came across this good VC, or I came across a good event, or I came across this thing, you just park it over there. And so obviously, I mentioned that on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, my creative block until 12 o'clock, so no
Yep.
meetings. And that's when I go through that list. And it's like, I just plow through it bit by bit by bit. But obviously, if you want to network with people, you have to have a reason to reach out to them. You can't just say, "How can we have a coffee?" Right? So you have to have a reason why you want to reach out to them. And then and the way that I organically generate that is, I'll think about saying, "Oh, this guy would like that," or this person would want that. So it's very organic. Obviously, I guess going back to your word, and maybe I didn't realize this until you mentioned, maybe it is intentional, but it is mutually beneficial type thing.
Yes.
It's not a hard sell. It's not a hard sell. So, for example, I often get, because got a wide network, I often get like invited to events and things, and it's not always my sector. It's like if it's med tech or ad tech or whatever, it's not really my sector. But then I put on to people I know in that sector. So, do you want to go do this, or can I introduce you and connect you? Because that helps. But networking and your network is very important, and don't discount your existing one. School friends, obviously, South African network, people you work with, people you bump into at WeWork. You don't have to go network with London School of Economics or some MBA course. You just network with your existing people.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a question I ask often, but I feel like you may have a unique perspective because you've started so many times. Did you have any fears about starting?
I thought about this after I saw the question the other day, and I must say that when I get ideas, I never feel fearful. I feel overexcited and I can't wait. And so I think that overrides anything else in a big way. And then, like I mentioned to you just earlier, I did go the other day and feel like, did I just do this to myself again? Like when actual the inevitable fear becomes reality, because if you don't deal with reality, reality will deal with you. Inevitably, things come up. So for me, it's never been, oh, I'm just scared to do something. But that might also just me being irrational and me being not an adult probably in that way. But for me, when I get an idea, the excitement takes over, and then there's not a fear factor. I can't say fear is a part of the decision-making process.
I can see that being really valuable because a lot of people, I think the fear stems from self-doubt. You have this idea and you're pretty sure that it's a good idea and it's worth running with, but you just feel like, oh, maybe I'm not the one to do it, or like, how am I going to make this happen? And it seems like you take that first step without much thought, and then things go into motion, and then if fear happens, you're already in motion and you've got things that you have to do. And
exactly.
So, yeah.
Go forward. Exactly. Again, that quote from Reid Hoffman, actually another Reid Hoffman quote, the founder of LinkedIn. He says, an entrepreneur is someone who jumps off the cliff and assembles the plane on the way down. Because you have no choice. You have to attach the wings.
You have no choice.
You have no choice.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean all entrepreneurs work like that, because many other people are way more substantive and thoughtful. However, one must live your own strengths. And so I can't be sitting and doing spreadsheets and plan too much up front, because then that's not what gets me excited. So play to your strengths, basically. So same with the plane on the way down. It's my all-time favorite Reid Hoffman quote.
Yeah, that is a great quote. And what would you say are your most valuable lessons that you've learned on your journey so far?
Whenever you think you are done and tired and you can't get any further, you still have 10,000 miles in you. Always. So I remember finishing high school, I was thought, how can you go study 7 years to be a doctor? Or how can you go study 7 years to be a lawyer? Like, this just sounds like 7 years. It's such a ridiculous amount of time. So I just did an undergrad, just a BCom degree, which is half that time. So then I always thought to myself, I've never stuck to something long enough. So the email company has now been more than 10 years. So I know now I have grit. Because we have been through everything, from being sued by HMRC to losing all the staff, to losing all the clients, to building up from scratch again a few times. So I know now I have grit. I know now I'll see it through. And the lesson I learned from that is, don't underestimate how deep you can go, like how far you can go. Because no matter if every door is closed, there's always another 10,000 miles inside you.
That is a valuable lesson. And I think you touched on some possible mistakes there. I feel like mistakes are a very important part of the whole learning process.
Yeah.
Do any mistakes come to mind that are worth sharing?
So I heard someone say the other day, there's no mistakes in life. There's only feedback. so, so yes, the first thing is don't make decisions when you're desperate, because then you make the wrong decisions. Having said that, sometimes you are desperate and you have to make decisions, so then don't delay the decisions. Yes, but try to avoid decisions when you're desperate. The other mistake that I still make constantly, and I'm aware of it, and I'm kind of aware of it to a degree that's embarrassing, but it's just who I am, and I've now learned to just live with it, is when things get tough, I personally get quiet. So when stuff gets tough, like I retract inside and I work to fix it, as opposed to telling people about my problems until I fixed it. Now, obviously, whenever I get to the point where people get upset with me because I haven't told them about it, they go, "But why didn't you just tell me?" And I realized, why didn't I just tell you? Because it would have been so much easier. But I just realized that is my repeat mistake pattern. And I'm kind of to a point where I realize it's just who I am. And so instead of me trying to then try to force myself to do something that I'm uncomfortable with anyway, just solve the problem. But that's a mistake that I realize is I keep doing. I realize people around me that, it's not the best way to always do it, but I'm not in a place where I can actually get rid of that mistake yet. The other thing, I guess, that I could say is do not get behind on your HMRC tax payments, because they will take you to court no matter how great your company is and how wonderful you are. Do not get behind on it ever. But the other thing is there's no mistakes, it's just feedback. And you are going to make as many mistakes as the things are you're going to do right. And so don't avoid the mistakes. Just go forward and sort them out as you go along.
Yeah, and would you label these mistakes as really valuable as part of the process?
Yeah, you had no choice. Because also, for example, when I resigned my job in banking to start this thing, I knew nothing, right? I knew nothing. I didn't know what shareholder agreement was. I didn't know what cap table was. I didn't know what the difference between angel funding versus seed funding versus VC funding is. And you just learn on the way. And my personal approach and thing is just do it and figure stuff out along the way, even if you make mistakes, because mistakes is feedback. Mistakes isn't the wrong term, And also remember, when you start up, or when you need a new company, you're actually innovating. So you're creating something new that wasn't there before, or you're doing new that no one has thought about before. And what happens then is you get an idea and a concept, and then you have to pivot or persevere. So you try, and if it works, you carry on. If it doesn't work, you pivot to something different that may work better with client user feedback. And therefore, mistakes is not mistakes. It is a discovery process. I'm being very philosophical about it, but I don't think about my journey, which has had many mistakes, as mistakes. I just think about it, it's been the journey.
Yeah, I think that's a very helpful way to frame it. Seeing it as part of the process and something you can learn from makes you less intimidated by future mistakes. So you're able to continue and keep growing, which I think it's a valuable way of looking at it. And with all of this going on, are you able to find any time for yourself?
So the thing is, though, this is cliche as well. Like, if you like what you're doing, you like what you're doing a little bit. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like, of course, it's time for us up, but also what's quite nice in my situation is most of my friends and my family and people are either investors or work with or around me or tangentially. I would like to get to a point where I've done an exit at least of one of these companies, successfully. So it's I'm no longer a pre-exit entrepreneur, but I actually have some, because once you've exited, sold a company, you go from silver to gold standard entrepreneur. So I would like to do that sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, I did think to myself the other day, what if I wasn't doing this, what else would I be doing? Would I do another career? Would I live somewhere else? Would I do something else? And even if I sold one of the companies $1 billion, I'd still be carrying on with the other ones, because that's what I would be doing anyway, right? That's what I know. So that's nice. I know that, like, even if I had sold the company for $1 million, or not a billion, I still do the same thing. I still do.
Yeah, I had that discussion a couple of episodes ago about the term work-life balance, and it seems that for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's not really a thing. We use this term, And the majority of people who work like a 9 to 5 job and are happy with that lifestyle, balance in their eyes is taking the break in the evenings and like resting on the weekends. But if you really love what you do, it's not really considered work to you. And so on the weekends, you're not working yourself to the bone. You're just doing what you love. You're trying to make something happen and you're really passionate
Yeah.
about it. And so everyone's balance is slightly different.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, the other benefit of being entrepreneurs, especially in the tech space, is you can work from anywhere, right? So, so when you go on holiday, which you never ever do, so this year, for example, Barbados and wherever, like you just work remotely all the time. So that work-life balance actually is more like work-life flexibility. So
Yeah.
I can do this from anywhere. I spoke to my cousin this morning, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I should go work from Sri Lanka for the next few weeks, and I can, I can.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the work-life balance flexibility
Yeah.
framework.
That is great.
You also have accountability because work's like to get done. Like you still have to do payroll, still have to raise money. It's not like you go off and go off swanning, but you have flexibility.
Yeah. And I know you started in banking, but did you always see yourself as an entrepreneur, or did that sort of develop over time while you were working in banking?
Always entrepreneur, always. I remember being a kid and thinking I was going to have a chicken egg laying farm. And I remember asking my mum questions before we had Google, in the early 90s, like how much a dozen of eggs, how much is chicken feed, like how much can I do in the back garden. I remember working out the entire business plan. I'm going to buy hens and get them to lay eggs and sell eggs to our neighbors. And I remember my mum reminded me this the other day. She's moved to London, still works in banking. And at that point, I thought, right, so the next revolution is going to be energy, because it was industrial, then information, next thing's going to be energy. And so we need to get into green energy somewhere. And so and then I actually tried to move into commodities whilst in banking, because commodities is where you buy and sell these physical and financial commodities. And that's where I got the workflow idea. So it's always been like, was going to be not entrepreneur, like, because who knows what that means? It's like business owner, creator type thing. Only recently as entrepreneur become a career choice. The idea has always been like I was going to set up my own thing, from chickens laying eggs all the way to wind farms and then ending up in tech. So
Wow. And what do you think the one thing that all entrepreneurs need to have is?
So that question is people always ask that question. I think it's different to different people. So for me, what drives me is I have the idea and then I believe in the idea and I just jump into it. Whereas other people are more methodical about it. Like they have the idea, they first set up all the other things and they move on. What's going to happen no matter what is all your ideas and plans are going to be wrong, and you are going to have to go back to the drawing board several times. And so it's grit. And you don't know that you have grit until you're in the place and you develop the grit. So I don't want to say like only be an entrepreneur if you know you have grit, because you won't know if you have grit until you need the grit. And then if you start and you don't have a grit, then that's also okay, because then you've learned, you've had the feedback, you don't have it, and it's just too hard, and you go back to corporate life, and then you're happier as well. So if you're an entrepreneur, try it out. Like you'll find out whether you have grit or not.
Definitely, that's great advice. And so before we end, I usually hand over the mic and ask if you have a question for me.
So Byron, you interview a lot of smarter people than me, and a lot of interesting people more interesting than me. And so I was wondering if there's anything that jumps in your mind that you might want to give me some advice, like any feedback that you've learned, some golden nuggets that you can share with me, maybe.
Oh, golden nuggets! I think that's a tough one with the experience that you have. I feel like what I've learned is that every entrepreneur's journey is unique to them. And even their origin story of how they started is completely unique. There's like a few archetypes of like being backed into a corner or slowly developing. And like in your case, where you saw the idea and then 3 years later, you were pretty certain that this was something that these banks needed. And so I think it's really tough to give you advice. I mean, you're the one doing it. You've got 3 companies on the go. And I just think there's so much to learn from you. And like, I'm so impressed at how you managed to spread yourself across these 3 companies and the DA network. It's really, really impressive. And I think it's an indicator to me that I could always push myself a little bit further. And I think that is a valuable lesson. And so I'm sorry, I can't give you a direct answer. Because
well, thank you. I think the direct answer is, like you say, every story is unique.
yeah,
Yeah,
and and although most of what I learn, I sort of apply it to my own situation, because I'm behind a lot of the people on my journey compared to the people I speak to, and so it even feels a bit strange for me to offer up any advice to you, to be honest.
I must tell you, the other day when you and I spoke first, you mentioned the genesis of this podcast. Now you set yourself 3 small habits every week, which is the things you set up for that. And then I was listening to another podcast, and the guy was saying the exact same thing to me: just daily, weekly small habits, and just stick to it, because of the compounding effect. And I've been implementing that a bit more over the last couple of weeks since you and I have spoken. So you've already, just to know that, because you mentioned the habit thing, and then that podcast mentioned it kind of like, habits creates compounding benefits. So you've already helped me in that sense, by the way. Just by the way, that was a nice story. Like, just every step to get the podcast up and going, and here you are. So that habit is a good compounding lesson.
Thank you. I'm glad I had an impact. That's really interesting. And thank you for being a guest on my podcast and me just sticking to it every week. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you for joining me today, Ludré. It was a great conversation. And if people want to find out more about your many projects and you, how can they do so?
Well, they can just go onto any of those websites, GoGetNow.xyz or EasyScheduleApp.com, or just LinkedIn. It's Ludré, like Andre, but like Ludré with a little 3P on the on the E. But yeah, LinkedIn or any of those places, and happy to have a chat with anybody.
Fantastic. I'll put those links in the show notes. Well, thanks again for joining me, Ludré, and chat soon. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate you making it all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed the episode. One more quick reminder before you go. I have a weekly newsletter by the same name, Another Excuse, where I cover 4 topics: something that has changed my perception, a tool that could be useful to you, content that is actually worth consuming, and a concept that I try break down and explain. If this sounds of any interest to you and you need a kick up the arse, then you can subscribe at the link below. Thanks for joining me again, and I'll see you next week.